But what questions, concerns, thoughts, things we're working through today? Would love to work through them.
I have
Chad.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, Terrence,
Go
we
ahead.
will get to you, buddy. I think
Oh.
Chad beat you to the draw there.
Either one. I'm new to this, and we're in the process. I've been in the roofing business for 19 years, and just decided to kind of start growing the business this late in the game. But we're rebranding our company. Nicole and the team is helping us and stuff, but we're in the process of maybe switching our CRM. So if there's anyone else in the roofing industry, I do want a roofing specific CRM. So if there's anybody, we're looking at Leap and Proline. But if anybody has any recommendations as far as a CRM that they use and love, I would love any input.
Yeah. Zach.
Yeah. I've used AccuLinks most of the time in the past, but when I started my company last year, we got with the job Nimbus, and the customers really love it because of all the photos that you can put in there, and the detail that goes into that. I've won some jobs based just off because there's a photo with an explanation of exactly what's wrong on the roof. Because a lot of people, you tell them the stuff we talk about, Chad, and they don't know what you're talking about.
Sure.
But when I'm able to put a photo and a description and line item out, the cost for everything, that just that CRM has landed me. But I got 105 square student housing building just because the board liked my bid best. So,
I've looked at Job Nimbus. I mean, that's one that we're kind of looking at too. I've used AccuLinks this whole time, and I'm just kind of fading away from it. So that's kind of why I'm looking. But yeah, Job Nimbus is one that I do get a lot of positive feedback on.
We love it. And once, that project manager I just hired, he was able to figure it out and start writing reports in about a day and a half. It's super easy to use.
That's great. I think it's a pretty popular one too. So future hires might have experience with it, which is always nice. As you can see with Zach getting his project manager up quickly, that's huge.
Yeah.
I know for a lot of my remodelers, Job Trend is a big one. And I know that can be used for roofing as well. It's not necessarily roofing specific, but construction. I think it pretty much has most of the things that Builder Trend does at almost half the cost. Travis, correct me if I'm wrong there, but I think that's kind of the trend that we've been seeing with it. So I would always recommend looking into 2 or 3. Usually they have trials and stuff that you can, do to help make your decision.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a great question. Terrence, what's going on?
Hello, this is my first in-person meeting. I was on the phone with you guys last week, but this is my first where I, specified taking this time.
Love it. That's a win in itself.
So I had somewhat of a situation / question, but now I'm a little scared and embarrassed to present it. So, I'm not going to present it.
No, this is a safe space, Terrence. Safe space.
So, and I don't want to take up too much time, but I had a pretty crazy situation happen this week.
Tell us.
Which is kind of a win, which is why I wanted to bring it up, but it's a little confusing. So I have the construction company, and then I have a roofing company as well. For the roofing company, I have a partner, and this week he walked away from his union roofing job to help the roofing company full time now. I wanted to bring it up as in, has anyone dealt with like a similar situation? We're also trying to figure out pay structure since we are a 50-50 split in the company. Obviously my revenue and my income is mostly generated from my construction company. But now with him taking that leap, he is my good friend, and I know you're not supposed to make friendships in business, but I had told him, hey, let's focus on your salary for this year because I want to make sure he's safe and fed, even if I got to take a hit profit-wise. But I just want to know if anybody kind of dealt with anything like that. I ChatGPT'd my you-know-what off for like 2 hours, but it's a little stressful on my end, but I know it'll help, obviously, with him working full time as a union roofer. A lot of the paperwork stuff fell on me, but now that he has transitioned over to full-time for our roofing company. I know it's going to help. But yeah, if you guys have any thoughts or similar situations, I'd love to hear it, because I'm a little lost here on just structuring. Structuring's the big part, I don't want any ill feelings to arise throughout this situation, not just from him, but from myself as well, as I will be obviously kind of sacrificing some of my profit in this company to make sure that he has a livable salary, so I'd love to hear kind of what you guys have.
Yeah. So I want to kind of summarize your question, and totally correct me if I'm wrong here. But I think one question that you have is just how should I pay him? Should it be salary? Should it be hourly? How have you guys done it in the past with partners? Is it profit share? So I think that's kind of one of your questions. I think another one of your questions is like, how do we approach this in the best way possible so it's very clear who is responsible for what? Like what your duties are, what my duties are, make it very clear, kind of hold each other accountable. How can that be done well? I would love to hear from anybody who is either currently in this position where you have a business partner. Rick, I was hoping you would raise your hand because Rick has his business partner, Scott, and so the similar situation. So would love to get some advice, Rick, if you have advice to share there.
Run. No.
I heard that one too. Yeah.
I'll be honest. Most of the time, business partnerships don't work, and it will be, hey, we're pulling in this kind of money, and I feel like I deserve this or that. But me and Scott has done stuff over the years, and I mean, we've done some goofy ventures. We bought an 18-wheeler full of camo one time, and I didn't realize that everybody wore the size that I didn't have. So so we had 3X, plenty of 3X stuff, but so we've done that kind of stuff. But the biggest thing, and I think about a roofing company that I know that they just sold, and it was 3 brothers, and whenever a job would come in, I knew one of the son-in-laws, they would scramble, the 3 brothers would scramble to see how much money they could spend, because they knew that the other ones was spending the money. And so it was literally that it was a scramble of how fast can we spend the money, because my 2 brothers is after it. And they always struggled. They were a great company, as far as building up and stuff. But the way we've done it, we've structured it is we just pulled a salary, and we said it doesn't matter if there's $10 in the bank or $1 million. We're doing we're pulling this salary, and then we've done things along the way. Like Scott's not really pulled a salary because he's got other companies that he's doing on, besides this company. So he's not pulled a salary, but we have plumbed and wired and HVAC'd every house he has. So, he's not necessarily pulled a check, but then again, he has, because we've done everything. So I would say pull a check, make sure you're on the same page as far as, hey, just because there's money in the bank doesn't mean nothing. That doesn't mean that we get a bonus. He's going to have to be something else that would be rough, is if he's not financially stable in his personal life. If you're not careful, that'll pull over into the business. And then he's constantly needing more money because he's not financially secure or structured in his personal life. And there's $100,000 in the bank, and he feels like, hey, I need some more money,
Yeah.
So getting it structured, and I'll just tell you, I know a great company called Redmond Growth. Getting it structured is going to be the key to starting it off, and say, hey, it doesn't matter how much money's in the bank. This is the way it's got to be. And then, and we built and Nicole's our coach. We have been in the business 3 years. We've done I think it was 2.8 million in 2025. So we grew a company where, I mean, we've got 5 electricians, 5 plumbers, and 3 HVAC guys. So in 3 years. So we've grew what it's taken some people 20 years to grow in a short time. But it's mainly because the financial structure too. You know, if there's no money, you can't grow. You know, if all the money's gone, you know, buying boats and stuff, you know, we couldn't have built this house. You know, it had, you know, I just said something about building this house. The banker looked at our financials and said, man, how much money do you want? You know, and so that's another thing. If you're going to grow a business, if you just want to be a chuck in a truck, then blow the money as it comes in. If you're going to grow a company, then it's got to be structured financially. It's the biggest thing. Finances is what motivates everybody. You know, we've done it. Me and Scott, we've had our company buy some brand new vehicles. He wanted a F-450. We went and paid cash for it. I wanted a 2500, paid cash for both of them. You know, so, you know, that's the biggest thing is getting it structured to where both of y'all are on the same page. And I would say there needs to be, I hate to say it, but an exit strategy too. You know, what happens if this thing goes south? You know, do you dissolve the whole entire company of what you built and then maybe of what he's done? You know, how I think, and that's somewhere where I think Redmond Growth could help too.
It was a loaded question. It was a big one. I know.
Yeah, a lot of answers there. I think the main things to get from Rick is the finances from the business. The financial health of the business has to come first, and that has to be equal from both of you. Like I hear you saying, like, I know I'm going to sacrifice profits or sacrifice myself. If you're 50-50, it should be an equal sacrifice. I know he needs to make what is comfortable, but so do you. You do not want to get in the situation where you're constantly the one who's making the sacrifices, because that is going to end up in a very resentful environment. And it's just not going to be good for either parties, especially not good for the company. I would really implement profit first, because that's going to be the way for you guys to absolutely know what you can pay yourselves and what the business can afford. So I would really use profit first. I would sit down with your coach and say, hey, if I need to pay myself blank and he needs to pay himself blank, what type of revenue goals do we need each month and what margins do we need? Profit first is going to help you do that, along with tracking your KPIs. Everything needs to go down in writing. I don't care if you're joined at the hip twins when you're born or if you've been best friends since kindergarten. Don't care. Everything needs to be in writing, especially what Rick said: exit strategies, responsibilities, who's responsible for what. Everything needs to be written down and agreed upon. And if you need to have something legally clad and signed, I would. Of course, it's kind of the same thing as getting like a prenup before you get married. You know, it's like nobody wants to use this, but it's going to make things a lot easier if something bad were to happen. You know, hope for the best, prepare for the worst type of thing. And so that's why I would really get from Rick is make sure the financials are in order. We can't promise a salary if the business can't produce it, you know, and you guys, if you're 50-50, sacrifices need to be equal, responsibilities need to be equal, have everything written down. Angel, I see your hand up here. Would love to hear what advice you've got.
Yeah, so just to give you an advice, and excuse me my accent, but if you don't get anything, just let me know. So I had the same experience. We started our business 4 years ago with my partner, 50-50, and he takes it. He takes care of the production. I do the business relationships. We tried to get another business partner, so it's gonna be 1/3 everyone, and it didn't work. And it's because we didn't put everything in writing. We trusted each other, and everything went south. So he ended up leaving the business because he didn't know how to run a business. He was an employee. He was an excellent employee, but when he became a business owner, he didn't know how to take the pressure of having a business. Sometimes you don't have money, sometimes you do. Sometimes you don't get paid, you have to pay everybody else. So just make sure you have everything in writing, and just explain to him what having a business is actually like.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Hey guys,
that's-
one of the other things that I've noticed, just through relationships and stuff, is that a lot of the times business partners don't have, which is one of the most important things for them to have, is key man life insurance. Key man life insurance is important for when there's partners, right? Because otherwise, if something happens to one of the partners, you're left dealt. You have to rely on the family now because the family now is the one that's responsible for the other 50%, right? They're responsible in the sense that they're going to be fighting you over their 50%. With the key man life insurance, you guys are able to buy them out. That way, you guys now have full control, 100% of the company, and that's one of the things that I noticed that partnerships do not have in most cases. So, just something for you guys to have and talk to your coaches about. But it's huge, mostly in partnership situations.
Yeah, that's great advice. That's something I would not have known advice to give. So really appreciate you.
I'll pick
mentioning
Alex's brain on it down the road.
Yeah,
at our
yeah.
next call.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Jordan, I see your hand up. I don't know if it's advice or question, but go
Yeah,
for it.
so I'm kind of have a similar thing going on right now. I was able to kick the can down the road, Nicole, to 2027. I didn't have to give up anything right now. But one of the guys I brought on wants an ownership stake in the company. And I was like, well, you're going to have to, we just met each other, you're going to have to kind of prove yourself type thing first. But have you guys already made the 50-50 split? Like, is that done? Or is it like you're considering the 50-50 split?
No, when we had started the company, it was 50-50. And we had both kind of treated it as a side hustle because, again, I have my main construction company and he was working as a full-time union roofer.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know if you can like retroactively go back into any of that stuff, but some of the stuff to consider that just come up with me is like, what happens if he's married and there's a divorce? What happens if he steals from the company? What happens, like, did he buy in, so there's lots of things that you really, like everyone was saying, you really have to write out, what is his buyout? Like what is the potential buyout valued at? Things like that. I mean, I know somebody personally who had an employee that had ownership stake in a company, and the employee got a divorce, and it was an absolute nightmare to get the company valued, and the guy's ex-wife paid out on what 50% of his percentage was. So just things that might not enter in the equation, I've got kind of a question on a similar topic.
Yeah, before you ask Jordan, one note that you talking brought up. Obviously, Terrence, if you guys are already 50-50 and there's no way to fix that, awesome. But I would say best practice is having somebody being majority, even if it's, 49-51 compared to both being 50-50. Just because you do need somebody, you don't want what we call like a two-headed dragon, or it's kind of like having two chefs in the kitchen. Like you'd want somebody who is kind of the main decision maker. And so if there is a way to fix that, or just anybody, if you are thinking about this, especially in Jordan's situation where this is employee, obviously Jordan's going to hold the vast majority. It might be a profit share situation, or it's a very small sense of ownership. But it's always best to not have it split right down the middle. Jordan, go ahead.
If someone is to buy in to a company, and if anybody has experience with this, let's just say the company's valued at $100,000. They want to buy in at a 10% stake. Is that common then that the person wanting to buy in would put up $10,000 in cash, or do they just get a 10% stake? And then do you pay out that? Does that 10% come back in profit yearly to them, or does that money stay in the company until it sells? These are just things that I'm trying to wrestle around in my head. Would they get 10% of the profit for the year, or does that money stay in the company until it sells? Just some things that I don't know if anybody here has any experience with that.
Any client advice?
Hey Jordan, one of the things that I'm in other groups, right? And one of the guys, he did that within his company. He was actually getting ready to step away, and he made the employees owners. But what they do is they take profit sharing at the end of the year, their percentage after whatever's left of the profit. From what I understood, that's the only thing I've actually heard. But that's where they divvy it up at the end.
Yeah, Richard, I'm gonna let you give some advice here because Jordan's gonna hear a lot of my advice. I'm his coach, so I'm gonna let you. But one thing I just want to make clear is you are the owner. You get to set the freaking parameters. So I think you get to make it whatever the heck you want to make it. If it's profit share at the end of the year, profit share when it sells, whatever is going to be easiest for you is what I would absolutely present and do. You get to set those parameters. I would have a attorney or somebody just look over it, make sure it's legally clad, but whatever works for you is what you have to offer. No right or wrong. Richard, go ahead. If you want, unmute.
Hey, so I was going to share just having been through a few partnerships over the years, just some recommendations for whatever they're worth. I don't want to sound like a pessimist, but sadly, a good percentage of partnerships can be very problematic after you get through the honeymoon phase and you have to deal with issues. Somebody was talking about divorce. Somebody was talking about, a loss in terms of death and succession and all of that. So, I would always recommend if you're going to enter into a partnership, and I've seen several of them in this industry done over the years, that you always plan on I hate to make it as simple as a prenup, but you plan on a divorce situation in the future, and you basically come up with a way to value things in terms of valuations and some things in terms of a dissolution process. Hopefully that wouldn't happen, but we always come together under the best intentions, and we usually leave in the worst intentions. And when things start to go south, that's really not a good time to try to fix holes you left in your leaky bucket. So I would encourage that. And then on the partnership, I know a lot, it's common, especially with younger guys, to want to come in with a lot of zeal and vigor and want to, buy into different things. And I'm not saying that you can't have strategic relationships there. Those sometimes are good and beneficial. But as I think it was Nicole, somebody said, you really can't do a 50-50 thing because then you have no final official authority. So in terms of if I were going to hypothetically bring in a partner, I would bring him in as a minority owner, like maybe say 10%, and give them an option of what they, if they're going to come in and legal law, business law requires there to be a valuation exchange. So if he's going to come in and want 10%, he needs to have something that he's giving to the company that is the value equal to that 10%, whether that's monetary, whether that's growth and things that he can do. Let's just say maybe he's a media geek and he knows how to do all this stuff, and he can bring all this business all this new business to the company via marketing and advertising, things like that. I mean, those things have value, but those things also need to be clearly communicated back and forth in terms of what's fair, because if he's coming in, he needs to bring a value that's worth the portion that he's getting, and then you can always give him layers of more value in the future if he continues to produce and the valuation of what he's contributing is there to justify it. But at least if he's a hypothetically 10% owner, it's not going to hurt you too bad to get him out if you have to. If it's a 50-50 deal, that's hugely messy because you each are kind of equal players and nobody really has the authority to come in and say, this is how it's going to be. You're done, you're out, you want out. That's fine, go out. And this is how it's going to have to happen. But when it's 50-50, you really have no power, really, legally to push that. So those would be my recommendations for that. Make sure the values there that they're bringing, or the potential value that they're adding to the company, is commensurate to that ownership portion. And then also, again, I like the idea of profit sharing, and giving them some kind of an arrangement in the buyout that, no, they're not going to get all the profits right now, because there's going to be certain things that need to be retained in the company for working capital and things like that. So you give them an option where everybody takes a portion of the profits at the end of the year. And if they want to reinvest that, or everybody decides they want to reinvest that back into the year, that's everybody's choice at the end of the year. Everybody can agree to do that as a group or not group. Those would be my recommendations. Hopefully there's a little bit of wisdom there. I've seen, like I said, a lot of these go south over the years. So tread lightly as you're entering into it, and really make a good plan to cover yourself.
Yep, I totally agree, Richard. Make a plan, get it written down, make sure that it's very clear. You know, we don't want anybody making assumptions, so don't give the opportunity for assumptions to even be made. You know, make it very clear what we're getting paid, when the profit's happening, you know, what the responsibilities are. And I cannot emphasize this enough. If you only verbally communicate it, you might as well not have communicated it at all. This has to be written down and documented and signed in somewhere that people can reference to and access, you know. So great advice all the way around, team. What other questions do we have today? Stuff we're working through, thoughts?
There's a question that I have for the remodelers in here. For any of the remodelers in here, how are you guys, if you guys don't have your own design, you know, in-house, how are you guys dealing with that? And who do you guys go to? Is there any companies that you guys recommend that you guys outsource to, or do you guys, you know, what do you guys do?
Are you kind of asking, Adam, if people subcontract out or if they do employees?
No, I'm just trying to see if there's different sources, you know, because like, for instance, I know that sometimes I'll send the customers to Floor and Decor, and they help them, you know, they help them do design work on stuff, on material and stuff. And I know there's remodelers that have it in-house, you know, or just some outsource. So I'm just trying to figure out what people, you know, what other contractors are doing.
Yeah, Angel, I saw your hand fly up.
Yes. So right now we have 2 people that are working in Mexico for us, and it's like $16 an hour. I have an architect and I have a project coordinator for working for us. So anything that we need to do, they'll do it, and it's gonna cost 1/3 of hiring somebody over here. You have designers, you have engineers. You can choose whatever you want, because you interview this person. They speak English. They have the visa. They have to come to the States. So it's a good way to train somebody how you want them to work for you, and it's gonna cost you way less than hiring somebody over here. And you know, they work from an office. You have access to their hours, so you know if they're working or not. It's not like they're at their house, you know, and you don't know what they're doing.
Thank
you. Yeah, Scott, I think you've got, you know, kind of both perspectives here. Would love for your advice.
Yeah, well, Chris, who's not on today, I don't think, but he's an architect, and he actually does work for other contractors. So if you needed somebody who's looking for design build type stuff, you can reach out to us and communicate with Chris. We actually use a couple different designers. We actually went out and found them so that we have referral relationships to them. I'm working on one right now. The designer called me. She's got a client in Europe that had a flood damage property on the house here in Phoenix, and he's hired her because the restoration company comes in and does all the restoration, puts it all back to basic, but he wants to upgrade the whole house, and the restoration company can't do that. So he's contracting with the designer. Now the designer's referring to us. So we just went out and found designers in the area. You know, you could probably do a Google search of them, and probably your flooring decors, your Home Depots and stuff. They may actually have some contacts if you go to their pro departments. of some designers that they recommend. And you can, the more you work with them, the deeper the relationships get. And then the better it becomes as a referral for your clients when they come in and go, hey, I need help designing. I don't even know where to start. So
Yeah.
we had a client call us for a full remodel. I went over and she goes, well, where are all your samples? I go, what do you mean all our samples? Let's talk about what it is you want to do. And basically what she wanted was a designer. And so I said, here's where you start. I said, you don't need a contractor yet. I said, we can take all these walls out. We can do all this stuff that you think you may need, but you need to figure that out with the designer, what colors you want, what kind of materials you want, what you really want your layout to be. And so that's my recommendation, is just, go out and search for a couple designers that you can get along with and work well with. They become a referral partner. It's pretty much what Alex was talking about too. So.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think there's an opportunity to kind of set a goal. Like I would love to find a designer that can kind of subcontract or work per job basis, because you are going to have to charge kind of a design fee or accommodate their costs. And as you get more leads, or as your reputation kind of builds more into like this premium service, people are, at some point you might be able to make it, hey, we work with a designer, and at that point you can bring them in-house and make it kind of standard. But you need to kind of build to that. And so I love Scott's advice of finding a couple that can kind of work when you have somebody who's asking for it or needing it. And then you can kind of bring them in on a per job basis with the intention of, hey, sometime at some point we want to make this standard on every job, because it does make it a lot smoother. It's a premium service, makes selections go a lot faster, but you don't have to go in and hire somebody to do that before you have the need for it. It's kind of a goal to work towards.
Can you guys hear me?
We can now.
Okay. Yeah, I've been trying to talk and I was like, I don't think anyone can hear me. So, Adam, we literally just worked with Floor and Decor. We developed a good relationship with a contact there. And we made working with her part of our pre-construction process. I think that's one of the most important and under-focused parts of a construction business, is focusing on your pre-construction systems. That's after the job is signed, after the proposal is signed, before you start work, all the things that need to happen in that time. That's where jobs can kind of go south. That's where customers can take a long time to make decisions, delay everything. Then they blame you, right, for not, doing the job according to the timeline because they've taken so long to make decisions. And so I would just, first of all, find the lowest hanging fruit. Are there designers that you've already worked with? Right. You probably, I think with Floor and Decor, we didn't have to necessarily pay a design fee because the customer was buying so many materials from Floor and Decor. So they provided that we provided that as just part of the process. But all we did was we had a relationship with, Scott just said, one of the design team members who worked for Floor and Decor. And we would set up a meeting. Like, we wouldn't wait for them to set it up. We would set it up, a meeting between that designer and the customer to make the material decisions, to finish the layout and the design and everything like that. And so if you don't have someone at a place like, so the first thing I want to say is that you can absolutely just work with places like Floor and Decor, right? Like, that's the kind of stuff we're talking about. It's really just finding a low-hanging fruit relationship and reaching out and saying, hey, we really need to send our customers to a designer to help make material decisions. Do you want to be involved in that process? And most of the time you're going to get an instant yes from people, right? Unless they're like too busy or whatever. And so I just reach out to the lowest hanging fruit. It can absolutely be like someone like Floor Decor, and I would make it part of your pre-construction process to schedule a meeting. You schedule a meeting with whoever that designer is and the customer, and even set deadlines on when decisions need to be made by.
Perfect.
Right? Sending a customer in to make, 40 different decisions on materials, on, cabinetry handles, on fixtures, on lighting, on all these things, and then just saying, hey, can you make this as soon as you can? You're sending someone into almost an impossible situation. There, if we don't have limitations on it, they can take a lot of time in that decision-making process. And so, yeah, I would just, what's the lowest hanging fruit? Reach out to that person. It can absolutely be someone like Florida Core. If they do need a design fee or something like that, you can just include that as part of your cost plus, costs, right? And yeah, it's a lot easier than it may seem, Adam. That's the main thing I want to say. It's a lot easier to set that up than it may feel right now.
Thank you, Robert. Crickets.
Yeah, what other questions do we have?
That's okay. It's funny because like the silence in a group call used to really like make me unsettled. I was like, oh my gosh, like what? Like no one's asking anything, no one's talking. Like, what are we gonna do? But then I just realized, like just now, someone will eventually say something, right? And if not, we just wrap up the call. Jordan, what's up, buddy? Good to see you, man. You're on mute, by the way.
What's up, Robert? Nice to see you too.
Thanks.
So has anybody used Ply with Housecall Pro? Nicole, I know you put me in contact with Laura about that, and want to reach out to her. I don't know if she's on this call.
I don't think so.
We are trying to get an inventory system set up. We want something that will sync with Housecall Pro. Also, we've started like a bin fill with our supply house. And I'm trying to figure out how to sync bin fill with Ply. Ideally, we would set up an inventory for each van and the warehouse. And I know it's going to be a lot of work to get all this stuff set up, and just seeing if anybody has used Ply or a similar inventory system.
Yeah, and open to suggestions outside of softwares too, just how you're keeping track of your inventory currently, or if you are using a software, just whatever's working. Any advice to give? I know that we've had a client on here, and Jordan, it may have been you, correct me if I'm wrong, but where each van had like a certain color of tape or something that was on the, it was like color coded per van. Is that you that's doing that?
Yeah, so we spray paint the tools a different color, like tools, batteries. We're electrical company, so tools, batteries, fish tapes. Each set has like a hydraulic punch kit, or each van has a hydraulic punch kit, socket kits, hole saw kits, all this stuff that is like assigned to that van gets spray painted. So
yeah.
And then we do once a month now, we do like van inventory. So basically in that, it's more like a tool inventory. So the guys are responsible for the things on that van. It's just a very simple list, like M18 battery, M18 5-hour battery, 4 of them clicked out, laser clicked out, punch kit clicked out. So it's really a better way than just finding out that all the batteries have ended up on one van. The rule is if something breaks on the job through normal wear and tear, so if a battery stops working, if a drill breaks, stops working, something like that, I'll replace it. If it's lost, we take it out of the next, we'll deduct it out of the next 4 paychecks to replace it.
Jordan, is the question just, hey, has anyone used this software that is part of Housecall Pro, or is it there? Did you have an inventory management, like a grader?
I currently have nothing, and I just know that that's a bad way to do business, right? An inventory or a company that never takes inventory will certainly go broke. So,
And so, are you just asking if someone has experience with the software that you're using?
well, there's a specific software called Ply, P-O-Y, that syncs with Housecall Pro. I'm looking in the near future of like that being an obstacle to tackle. We have
So,
probably $100,000 of parts in our warehouse right now, and it's, I think, bad business to not have it documented what it is, you know.
yeah, I think you're at a point where it makes sense to do something like that, to come up with inventory management software. I think for most people, depending upon where you're at, I like that are on this call, I wouldn't worry too much about that right now. But I think you're at a spot where it'd be time to do something like that. My just kind of general recommendations would be to get a software that integrates with whatever pre-existing scheduling, dispatching, software that you guys are using most of the time. You don't want to get a new software system if possible to manage a new activity. If they have an option to use one with Housecall Pro, that's the one. I would try to make the system super simple, and also maybe delegate overseeing kind of like inventory management to a specific team member. And that team member doesn't need to be a really experienced electrician. It could literally be someone in the office, right? Because you don't need to have electrical skill set to manage electrical inventory. But make an individual responsible for really being the primary person who knows the software, who's doing inventory updates, is making sure that if people are taking parts from your supply or from your warehouse, that the software is actually being updated. As you're going through this, I would just be intentional about picking a member on your team. It probably ideally would be an office person or be someone who'd be in the office every day, to go through that training with you and kind of make them the primary responsible person for overseeing inventory management. A lot of people have different approaches towards inventory. But I think for you, where you're going to be doing a lot of the same kind of service calls, using a lot of the same kind of parts, it makes a lot of sense, especially as you're growing, hiring people, all that.
And we did meet with Paul last week, and we have our onboarding at noon today with our like individual person for that.
Yeah, I was curious about that. I was going to ask you if you've started that yet or how that's going.
He said it might take three months to fill a position.
I think those are realistic expectations.
But Jordan did just hire 3 people. You missed the win, Robert. He did just get 3 technicians in, which is super exciting.
Well, I actually did not miss the win. I read all the wins here thanks to AI.
Ooh.
Jordan Russell, despite one employee leaving, I did miss the win, but I just wanted to save face a little bit. Despite one employee leaving and his top guy suffering a heart attack, requiring triple bypass surgery, Jordan was able to hire 3 journeymen in a package deal from a top Omaha company, which will help with the current labor shortage. 1 new hire is expected to take on a management level role. Maybe that new hire that you're talking about, expected to take on a management level role, maybe you could have them manage inventory as kind of like a precursor, like a small kind of management responsibility. They're not having to manage people, but you can kind of gauge their overall responsibility skill set. The reason why I say that's a realistic timeline for Paul's deal is because like Paul is not just trying to get a body in your company. they're going to be really thorough in making sure they find the right person. So how I interpret that expectation that's set, first of all, I have found that people that work with Paul get someone placed much faster than that 3-month timeline. So I think he's wanting to just set realistic expectations. The second thing is that the person that they're going to end up finding is going to more than likely be a really strong long-term fit. And the reason why is because they go so deep, before you even talk to the person, on assessing the individual and assessing the parts of the role. I assume that's what you're going to be doing on your onboarding call today, is really going deep in the role and the type of responsibility it has and the type of person you're going to need and all that. And so I think it'll probably happen faster, but even if it didn't, it would still, that's like 3 months for a search for a guy that's going to, make you tons of money in the long run. It's going to be with you for a long time. That's kind of the trade-off. But congratulations, dude, on those hires.
Yeah, thank you.
That's a big deal. What package deal, what Omaha company was this?
The company's called Burton that I got them from. So I found out kind of just through the grapevine, through connections, that their generator service manager was looking for a new job. And I'm trying to grow my business into like the generator space, but it's just something I'm really like I've always wanted to do, but I haven't had the time to invest enough energy into it to really go full bore with it. And found out that this guy was looking for a position. So I called him and, met with him or whatever. And he said, hey, my guys are really loyal to me. I'm really loyal to my guys. I got 2 guys that are going to want to go wherever I go. Do you have space at your company? And I was like, yes, I do.
That's awesome. Cool. Well, so all that to say is with inventory management, the option to use the or the choice to use the option that integrates with your software is the right one, right? So I just pulled the trigger there. I'd make someone kind of be responsible for that who isn't you. That's going to be a very distracting task if you allow that to be part of your personal responsibilities. And I think bringing these guys on board, if one guy has management experience, maybe I would just say, hey, we're doing this new inventory management software. I'd really like for you to oversee it. I kind of want to see how you manage things in general. And so I would have him participate in whatever sort of training calls, onboarding calls, whatever that looks like. I'd have him there for all that and make sure it's clear that he knows, like, hey, you are going to be the guy that oversees this. Okay, any other kind of burning desires? Any other final questions before we head out here today? Is everyone ready for Mother's Day? Ty Burcham. That was funny. Yeah, don't forget it's Mother's Day on Sunday, right? We can all get really busy in our lives, but we gotta recognize the moms. Gotta recognize most of you guys. You gotta just recognize your wife. It's kind of like a wife's day more than it is just a Mother's Day. Victoria's ready. All right, guys. Well, like always, we like to end our calls with some excitement, kind of like breaking down a football huddle. So I'm going to count down from 3. I'm going to go 3, 2, 1. And then after I say 1, we're all going to say growth together. So if you're new here, it's kind of something fun we do just in the call. So unmute your mics. Everybody unmute your mics. I'm going to start the countdown. 3, 2, 1. Growth.